of the processes. Although I requested Dr. Tariq and Dr. Pathan that I will be a bit late, but the word late normally I avoid to keep it in my dictionary. Although I take the cushion so that I try to do things as well as in time. I think what I can do is I was just trying to share my presentation. I will continue with my discussion, but I will forward that presentation to you as well so that you can upload from your end.
All
Uh,
right,
let
sir. All right,
let
sir.
the let the participants get the benefits of the same.
All
Uh,
right, sir.
so the
Sir, kindly allow me to give a brief introduction to our
sure, sure, sure,
participants.
sure, sure, sure.
And you can email me the PPT in the meantime. And when you present, I'll be sharing my screen. Is that okay,
Done,
sir?
done,
All
done,
right,
done.
sir. Good afternoon to all the dear participants and the distinguished guests. I extend a warm welcome to the second session of day 3 of the Faculty Development Program on Innovative Teaching and Research Methods in Law. This session is dedicated to the topic Outcome-Based Teaching and Learning Method. To apprise our participants on this topic, we have amongst us very distinguished Dr. Rakesh Kumar Chopra, who is a professor in UPS Dehradun. Sir's area of specialization is contracts, arbitration, corporate law, international law, and IPR. Sir has numerous publications in national and international journals of repute. Sir is an orator par excellence and has presented papers on a plethora of legal issues, including arbitration and international commercial contracts, in many national and international conferences. Sir has published a project report on Gulf War under the Indian Society of International Law, titled as Liability for Nuclear Damage, a New Regime under International Law. It is indeed very noteworthy that Sir has also served as an international arbitrator on the panel of Singapore International Arbitration Center, popularly known as the SIAC. And as I said, Sir was also one of our guests in the last FDP, which was organized by the School of Law, wherein the participants had immensely benefited from his session on developing research methodology for legal research. So all of us, Sir, again, are looking forward to pearls of wisdom from your side. Sir, have you sent me the PPT?
I'm just
I'll
trying.
just
Just give me your
so you
mail
can
ID
send it.
so that.
So you can do it on FDP. Will that be fine,
Yeah,
ma'am?
yeah. I can do that. No
Aditi,
issues.
ma'am, will that be fine?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
So can you please
Just
type the FDP email in
Yeah,
the chat box
yeah,
again
I'm
for sir?
doing that.
no, 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 no. I have. I think. Just wait. Let me forward you. Mm, yes. Yeah, tell me the FDP. I'm sending from my Gmail. Yeah.
Aditi,
Could
ma'am,
you
you
just,
can type the FDP email,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
you
no,
I'm
no,
can
typing.
orally.
you can.
Orally, you
You
can.
no, no. You can just mention. I'm just typing out from my
Yes, sir.
Gmail.
Yes,
Okay,
sir. Yes, sir.
okay, it's fdp
Yeah.
dot sol at the
FDP
rate
dot SO.
at the rate
Right.
gdgu gdgu dot org.
Right. So I'm I'm just sending this. I've already sent. So in the meanwhile, I will continue with this. I've sent this anyway. We'll start our discussion. In the meanwhile, you get the PPT. Let us understand about the purpose of the outcome based process and the subject. Normally, it is said that man and machine are two different aspects. It's true that man cannot be done or supposed to do work in a manner what the Taylor models of public administration used to say. But it is very, very essential for us that whatever we feel and whatever we teach has to be somewhat meaningful, logical, reasonable, and quantifiable. Now, when we talk about this, for example, I take the example of a pottery fellow who is just on the road, and we find how much you earn and what from you get things. He says, I just bring, certain fruits from a garden. I pay some money to him, and whatever money I get, I just go back. And that was the type of education which, to a very large extent, started even in the education system. Take the case of Gurukuls, whether it was the case of, the Dronacharya or Eklavya, the education was whatever Guru used to say was followed. I'm lucky to be a part of, the Delhi University, wherein Professor Madhu Menon, when he started with the concept of this outcome-based learning in the Indian context, taking clue from Bloom's taxonomy. I think Professor Ajit will agree because he himself is also from Delhi University. Uh, when these national law schools here in India were created, at that time the thought was perhaps it is the same case materials, which was a fact also, used by the NLU Bangalore, and accordingly nothing new is thought of. All fine. And when you talk about the education, education becomes meaningful once we ask question from ourselves, what is that which we have delivered? What is that which is really a logical one and important one? That means when you talk about the outcome based system, it's important that what is my plan? And when you talk about the learning, it is not merely listening, it is not merely hearing. Every time a teacher in a very small class, they will never tell the student, hear please. They always say, listen please. There is a difference between the word called hearing and listening. Once you hear, you have something comes, like a music you hear. But the music you more enjoy once you find its lyrics, once you also get a feeling of the words, the thought process. And same is important for the role of a teacher or the education system. And that is the reason why under the new education policy of 2020, the emphasis is on the outcome-based system. That means, and particularly this becomes more relevant when we are talking during this pandemic or on online system. We all have the freedoms to work from the home or work from any place what we like. But what is that which adds values to it? Now for that, I will just cover few topics, few thoughts for all of us, and we'll leave the floor open to answer any questions, whatever we have in our mind, because most of us, and I'm thankful to Dr. Tabriz also, uh, he himself had been, along with Professor Faizan Mustafa and others, seniors, including Professor Mitra from NLU Bangalore, as well as Professor Madhu Menon, who have done really a good work. And particularly Professor Tabriz started this in the UPS itself on the concept of outcome-based learning system. And this is the only one institution in the country to begin with. Now there could be very many, which always preferred or emphasized only on the specialized courses with the emphasis on outcome-based learning system. Although the outcome-based learning system is not a one-day process, and when we talk, what are the COs, how we are to calculate mathematically, how we are to do it physically, uh, how could be the course objective, the program specific objectives, how they come up. I will talk mainly on the policy and some of the examples. I'll try to see if I get some course plan also available that also can be shared with. But what is important is at the end of the day, student must get whether he is average, he is excellent, or what kind of learning skills are required. And a teacher is treated as a scientist to introspect into the psyche of the student, provided he or she steps into the shoes, making sure that how I make my sessions or the lessons more interactive. Now, on the outcome based system, the first education scientist was the Benjamin Bloom, and that is why, I put the name as the Bloom's taxonomy. I will be just talking on the few important aspects as well as its relevance with regard to our Indian context, because he was the first person in the University of Chicago in 1956 when he talked about the educational objectives and with regard to the skills which are required for most of the educators, which are more complex in nature, how in a most simplified manner, because I always believe whenever you have a complex equation, you divide it into smaller part, and each and every part accordingly develop. I always believe also Rome was not built in a day, and therefore, once we are emphasizing on an outcome based system, whether it's our primary education, our secondary education, our university education, it will only be a meaningful or purposeful only then and not otherwise. Now, proceeding further, can we have the next slide, please? The purpose is when it started, the aim was how best the examination system will be. And let me share with you here itself our experience. Very recently, since I myself being the controller of examination for the School of Law, so we started both with the online and offline mode, and luckily enough that we had both the online system available through a third party agency as well as the university students appearing in the examinations, and we could found certain challenges in those as well. So initially the purpose was mainly with regard to the examination system. Can you go to the next slide, please? Then later on, it was also important that when you are going to have the examination simplified, you are reaching to a last stage. But what is important for us is how well we are learning the basic objectives. That means when you talk about the classification of examination goals, it's very, very important. Where educational goals are not simply by making the examination process. What is important is how well we are teaching them. Can you go to the next slide, please? Now, so far as broadly, when you talk about, when we prepare our lectures, we always believe and need to have, first of all, we must know as a teacher, we must have the knowledge of our subject. Once we have the knowledge of our subject, then we also, because before we prepare our course plan or we go to deliver any lecture, it is important we must know what the subject is, try to comprehend that subject, make that application, how well it can be used under different circumstances or the situations, say based on the case studies or maybe on certain mood problems, analyze them, synthesize them, and evaluate them. So these are the 6 major intellectual categories which are accordingly arranged in the order of complexity. These are very, very important, and that is why when we go to our classrooms, it's important. For example, today I was teaching on a topic of called indemnity. It's very, very important. I'm talking to them on indemnity. I must make sure that the student must know what a contract is. So therefore, if the students do not have the knowledge of the basic facts, before I go with the next launching pad, although as a teacher I could have said that since this is in the second semester, I have got no basis, no reasons, so I am only interested in teaching what the current one is, because the knowledge which I am sharing to the students, it's very, very important for us as a faculty, as a teacher, to make sure what is the base level of the students, and from there accordingly we should develop it. That means once we share with them the information type of things, so that they have the complete picture. Once they have a complete picture, then their understanding becomes better. They try to comprehend. Comprehension is also possible in a way, either you wait and ask later on for some class test or some examination, or it is also possible through a continuous way. Like I remember when we talk about the learning, one of the famous psychologists called Pavlov, he mentioned that learning is nothing but it's a permanent change in the behavior of a person, which gives a better thought, a better idea, based on which you have learned something. Now, once you are trying to comprehend, then I remember the saying of operant learning by, the other psychologists called Thorndike and like Skinner's, where you operate in the environment. Like there was a very good example given by one of the famous psychologists called Skinner, wherein uh, a rat was to enter in a cave, and there was a piece of bread lying. So the rat was to move inside the cave and search where the the bread was available. That means He not only had the knowledge, but also himself operated on the environment through comprehending and applying. Only then, based on whether he followed the route X or route Y, that is all his analysis. And based on the analysis, he synthesized whatever he was able to get it. And only then, finally, he was able to reach to the bread where the evaluation process takes place. Can you go to the next one, please? Yeah. So far as Mr. Bloom is concerned, he emphasized that what is important for all of us is to have the first hand knowledge. Therefore, on any topic, let us not make it a point that we as a teacher, like if it is a 4 credit course or a 3 credit course or a 1 credit course, we have to teach everything whatever we know. I think that's absolutely a misnomer and a ill concept, which is more problematic for more the senior professors. They are more concerned to tell everything. Perhaps that is what the mindset which we need to change ourselves also. Uh, that means tell them as simple things as are possible so that the students have the first knowledge of the subject, and then that knowledge they are able to comprehend.
Please mute yourself, participants.
Okay, so therefore, in order to apply a subject, what is important is mere knowledge is not at all important. Knowledge is something which you gather, like as if you are hearing something. You need to apply to your cognitive ability to comprehend. And here the role of the teacher becomes very important in helping ways. What are the best methodologies which can be used in our outcome based education system? Can you go to the next one, please? Now, Bloom also developed, although not a very effective one, but yes, very important aspect called the affective taxonomy, when he emphasized on the concept like receiving, responding, valuing, organizing, and characterizing by a value or a complex situation. The aim of Mr. Bloom, according to me, he has given his own thoughts. Although there are many criticism of the Bloom's taxonomy, because I am personally of the view it's not important about the words, although he has given, when we come to the course objective and the program objectives or the program specific objectives, talked about all this, but we need to categorize broadly or compartmentalize broadly that what is that which we are going to deliver. Say, for example, when you are discussing any topic in the class, how well it is received. Now, receiving is something, is it merely the knowledge which is received, or the knowledge which is received but is also comprehended and accordingly responded by any individual? That means the learning. Now, the question is after response, you try to evaluate that. Now, evaluation, very important aspect of the outcome based learning, which may be because of the complexity in character or maybe the workload on the teachers. All those factors are important and relevant as well. But what is essential is to have a feedback of what the learning has taken place. Because the emphasis of the new education policy by the government of India is not to make just like a casual teachers, but also to ensure that they respond to the demands of the industry, as well as building their own the career developmental program. And that is what the meaning of outcome based system is. And mind you, in the outcome based system, when we are talking about, a lot of emphasis has also been given on the research tool, the research methodologies. That means how effective we as a teacher are, and how effectively we are able to deliver to those who are our subject group, that is our students, who are going to take finally the lead on the subject. Can you go to the next one, please? Can we go to the next one? Now, what is important for all of us is a lesson which we have taught in the class, and accordingly, the same we need to remember, we as a student understand, and we should be able to apply, analyze, evaluate, and create some thought as a student, so that it becomes a meaningful result. What does it mean altogether? Let us take some example. We say, like the case of Newton's first law of motion, which says we all are in state of rest till we are not asked to work. That is called the law of inertia. Now, we say this, some of the students and some of us will say, what is that which you are teaching, which you are not aware and which you are sharing with us? The purpose is, for a change, there is a need to effort. And we as a teacher also try to avoid and name it, when we talk it as a you know outcome based teaching, we only remember as the COPO model, and which is itself quite challenging for us, and something which has come uh, to us as a burden. But if we understand this in a right context, what is that which is being demanded? What is, when I said the Newton's first law of motion, I say everybody continues to be in state of its rest or of uniform motion unless it is compelled by an external force. Same is true for us when we are making, or when we are to make this outcome based education system or learning system as an effective one. That means I must say how I ensure that my student need to remember. That means I must tell them that there are two positions, one is rest, another is motion, unless either you apply the brake or give the fullest freedom. Then how a student will understand? The student will understand once I link up with certain examples and apply them in certain situations. For the legal scholars, we have the two grounds. Number one is our enactments, and the second is the development on the case law. Based on this, we also give them a practical situation, like analysis of the situation, so that at the end of the course, they are able to evaluate where they are, and are they able to create and develop something new which is important and relevant. And the same principles are mentioned in the next slide. Next, ma'am. Yeah, when we talk about the outcome-based education, it is a student-centric teaching and learning methodology. That means, what is the kind of delivery and the assessment system which we plan to achieve based on what are the objectives which are set out, what are the measuring tools, and how the student performance can be evaluated and measured at a different level. Can you go to the next one, please? Can we just enlarge a little bit this? No, same one. Yeah, it's fine. So far as the outcome-based education is concerned, we have a curriculum. We also have, like the GDGU University must be having the own standard of education. And then we also have the impact of industry. Then we also need to improvise ourselves. These are all the cyclic process, and then we also need the accreditation requirement that how well we are doing this. That means through this whole chain of events, it forces us and enforces us with the positive feedback so that we move in a cyclic manner. Because standard of education, gone are the days when the education was one of the directive principles of the state policy. Once the right to education is a fundamental right, and at the same time, the state do not have the means to provide the education. It's a good time, say in the last 2 to 3 decades, both the government institutions as well as the private institutions are emphasizing a lot based on which the education has come to this level, and the efforts of the corporate world is also really commendable in making the education of India, so far as the outcome-based education is concerned, quite effective and influential. Can we go to the next one, please? Now, when you talk about the outcome-based education, what is that which we are really looking at? We have certain attributes to the program. We also have certain program educational objectives, and then we also have the program outcomes or the program specific outcomes as well as the course outcome. I'll take a very simple case of a person doing graduation in BA LLB course. Now, for a BA LLB student doing the law course also, he must have at least an understanding of the subjects as well as the requirement which are there in the industry. That means we do not wish to create a graduate that after joining some law firm, he is not able to know what a plaint is. What is the distinction between a plaint and complaint? Similarly, how to file an FIR. Certain small things which we try to make sure that they are able to do it. And most of these uh, universities are emphasizing, like, the students should also have the teachings or the learnings from the professionals from the industry, as well as the internship, including the moot courts, so as to make sure that the graduate attributes, we will be successful in a day, uh, on that day when the graduate attributes are able to ensure that once they complete their graduation, have their own registration, and start functioning in a law firm or as a practicing advocate. So far as the attributes are concerned is based on what is that which are expected, whether it is these expectations are defined by the NBA or by the NAC. These are the guiding tools. But I personally believe what I shared with you, what we are really looking. We are looking, as we all know, we purchased a car, and the moment we take the car, we take it to the road. We will not say that this car is just new, and we need to make sure we had to familiarize this car with our house and other things. We don't bother, we just drive. Yes, they only suggest for first 500 or 1000 kilometers, drive bit slowly and make sure that you follow all the guidelines in the beginning stage. So same are also true with regard to the principles which the human being or our graduates should follow, notwithstanding the fact that we are not like a machine, but our own responses are also quantifiable as well. That's what the Bloom has emphasized on these principles. Can we go to the next one, please? Similarly, when you talk about the program objectives, it's also important that when you talk about a particular program like the BA course or a BCom course or BBA course, or say the BA Energy Law or the BBA Corporate Law, what exactly we are trying to work out? We are trying to make sure that these students have the career and professional achievements. Now, how they get this career and professional achievement? That means in the first few years, we are talking mainly of the 5-year law course, but same is true for the 3-year course or could be any course. In the first few years, we are teaching them the generic subject, like in a 5-year course, from in the first 2 years, 2.5 years, all the generic courses, because these are also the essentials as formulating the basic building blocks. And then we try to launch a bit complex topics as well. Say, for example, a student of energy law must have a professional development through this program of energy law, where he or she knows about not only the policy guidelines of energy conservation or implementation of the solar energy into the current regime, but what are the legal issues and the challenges so far as the School of Law is concerned. Make sure that it's not only the classroom learning, but also learning through the working with the industry, so that there is professional achievement which is made. That means POs are mainly the statement which describes the careers and the professional achievements in ensuring that the graduate achieves within first few years after graduation. That means excellence is a one part, but at least to be a beginner in that industry also is another part. Therefore, it's very, very important So far as the program objectives are concerned, they must match with the mission of your university or the institution. And it's also essential that so far as the POs are concerned, or uh, they also have to be linked with your program objectives, are also linked with what are the the course specific course outcome. And when we are developing these programs, it's very, very important that we take the help or the inputs from the all stakeholders, that is our students, our alumni, our industry and the management, and accordingly make suitable amends in our programs as such. Can you have the next one, please? Thank you. So far as the program outcomes are concerned, now program outcomes are the specific outcome, and when particularly the PSOs, program specific outcomes. Now program outcomes are a bit more generic, although this slide need to be have been more correctly mentioned. See, the program outcome for the criminal law student could be different, but the program outcome when a criminal law student or a corporate law student, when he or she is reading IPC, is same. But when the criminal law student is reading the subject of forensic to be read by a criminal law student has to be viewed in a different way compared to a corporate law, because a corporate law student will look forensic and its application and utility in cases of money laundering and other areas. Whereas for a criminal law student, the emphasis is mainly on the crime causation of crime, as well as how to catch the culprit, because the aim of both are different. Similarly, when a student of constitutional law is working on either of these two topics, his or her emphasis will be mainly on the interpretation part, number one, and number two, one is on the interpretation part. Number two, if there are areas to be challenged with regard to any legislation or which are in violation to our constitutional provisions, his or her aim would be different. Can you go to the next one, please? So far as that is why here something which is quite relevant and important for us is the domain specific outcome. Gone are the days which we started with the called Gurukulas. And now, whether it's a state or the corporates, or we as an individual as well, we also feel that what we work, does it have some worth or it has got no meaning? That means, similarly, when you keep a servant at home or when you have a machine with you, whether whether it is for washing or cleaning your utensils, you make sure that if you put a person in place of a machine, how he or she is performing. And the same way, it's essential that what are the broad specific outcomes which can be measurable and can be demonstrated based on what has been achieved on completion of the course. And we'll come to this, whatever we have made this discussion based on some of the practical examples once I finish my all this presentation. Now, once all the So it is very important that the outcomes have to be defined. And in that case, we do take the help of Bloom's. But my emphasis is as a simple understanding, start from a simple process, make it a bit complex very slowly so that the students are able to understand, analyze, and then they are able to apply in a practical situation. My second advisory to all our colleagues are that let us not have very large number of CEOs or POs, although POs are mainly decided by the institutions or by the university when they set out the programs. But so far as the program specific objectives are concerned, yes, that can be done by the program lead. So once all the outcomes are defined, then the simplest implementation process is to measure the outcome as per the outcome-based education system being followed in your organization. Can we have the next one, please? Now, what is a outcome? Outcomes are nothing but they are the resultant in which there are methodologies, methods and systems which we have fixed up for all programs. And the outcome remains the basis of the hierarchical, and it can measure the performance of the student in each and every course. How these are done, we'll take some practical example so that we'll work out accordingly. Can we go to the next one, please? Now, when we talk about the course outcome and for a particular course, now this is mapped as a part of the evaluation tool, and it do not function or move in its own way. That means how it works? It works with two basic principles. That means a course outcome and the program objectives, they have to have some matching. Either they are highly mapped or they are poorly mapped, or there are certain gaps which we always try to improve when we go with the next semester. And that is why when we complete our entire course and when we start our course, we have with us a course plan, and it's very important for all of us. For example, if it's a 4 credit course and there are 48 lectures, we make sure that in each lecture, what we have mentioned in our course plan, what is that which we have achieved, and where are those gaps, and how those gaps can be rectified. Can we go to the next one, please? Now, it's also important that gone are the days when students join an institution and if it is a semester system or otherwise, you have once or twice in a year, you have the examination. And when we're finding that these systems were applicable, in the overseas, we're finding why always there are exams and students are not feeling burdensome. The purpose has been, which Bloom has emphasized, is that once you make sure that the performance of the student is shown, evaluated, mapped on the regular basis, so that the we have first what is that which we make it. That means we make a building plan, and based on that plan we try to act upon, and then we find that wherever there are challenges, issues, or failures, we try to cover that and fill those gaps. And once those gaps are filled, accordingly, we'll see that a particular course has been better understood by the participants or by the students. Can you go to the next one? When we talk about the internal processes, say for example, today was your first day of the session. You have taken a session. Second day, you have come to the class and you ask some small questions to the student. The aim is that how well they they listen to the earlier session, and that's how you can make the quiz as a good tool for the students to remember. But make sure that if the student do not respond and if they do not answer, we as a teacher must make sure and take them to the same level where they were missing out, so that they are able to understand the lectures regularly. Now, when I use the word understand, that means it's important that after every few lectures, it's very essential that they make a presentation. When we say a presentation, it's important. Let us assume when we are teaching in the classes, it is not possible to talk on the large number of cases. And how I developed a technique was to have a group of, say, maybe 50 or 60 students in the class, divide it into 3, 4 groups without taking their regular time. These are the extra sessions which I used to take, wherein these classes, we make sure that they are giving their presentation, analyzing their cases, trying to put their own thoughts, interpreting it, and giving based on what they have understood. That means this is a methodology of understanding, and it also helps in applying their knowledge. Although Bloom mentioned that the same thing has to be done in two parts. One is based on your class presentation, and second is when you are making this presentation and trying to link with a complex situation, you are demonstrating by applying those, understanding your knowledge, your information, your case law in those practical situations, and then you try to evaluate. It is also possible that there can be, so far as the internal evaluation process is concerned, there can be a project group, so that the issues or challenges which are not there currently going on have been settled, but the law on the subject is uncertain. If these groups are able to show or develop certain ideas and certain thoughts, then perhaps it is one of the best methodology by which not only this creation for the module for the internal assessment has been there, but also good guiding recommendations to the Government of India as well as to the Law Commission, which can be helpful. Can you go to the next one, please? Now, when we talk about certain sample evaluation model based on the education system, uh, we try to see. Can you go to the next one, please? Next. Yeah. Yes. So when we talk, say, I've just taken I'll take up further for a few courses. Can we go to the next one? Yes. See, in any presentation, when we talk about the course outcome, as I mentioned, particularly say on a course of insolvency and bankruptcy code. So first of all, we need to have a very limited number of course outcome. I don't want as a teacher we make things as complex as possible. I've always believed we should have as simple as is possible. That means we need to define and discuss what is the concept of the subject. If it is IBC, fine. If it is of Indian Penal Code, we mention that. And then we try to comprehend the broad principles which are to be followed. That means after defining, we need to understand and make sure that how well they are useful by comprehending those broader principles. And then in the CO3, we try to analyze, either it is on case study method or based on, your existing legal principles. And by going through the various literatures, so far as the CO4 is concerned, which shows what are the gaps or the areas of gaps of in the research, what are the potential areas of research that we can accordingly identify and work out accordingly. That means our COs and POs, they should be in a manner so as to help us in making sure that we reach close to the students and make sure that our discussion and our doing becomes a meaningful. Can you go to the next one, please? Yeah, I think the rest, it is wrongly written. They are only PO, not CO. Need to correct it. So far as the program objective is concerned, the very first aspect is that the student must get the knowledge in the core area of law. If we are talking, like this was a very specialized course of insolvency and bankruptcy code, that is why was mentioned as a advanced knowledge, which may not be true in all the cases. The second program outcome should be how effectively the learning has been taken place so far as the practical legal issues are concerned. And then it is also expected that how the legal professional skills, either through the oral or the written communication or through the legal research and the policy analysis, which are useful to him, could be demonstrated. And then what are the various alternative solutions which can be available based on the the dynamics of the environment, whether it's a technical, legal, or the socio-economic aspects, because the new education policy emphasizes more on the interdisciplinary research, because gone are the days that a lawyer knows only about the law. He should not understand anything about the broader principles of a power plant or of a refinery or of a construction of a road. The commonly known thoughts must be known because only then he or she will be able to use the legal knowledge in the practical situations. Can we have the next one, please? I also developed a methodology specifically because I think there are a lot many purposefully I have not mentioned mainly on what should be the words, languages and all, because they are given most of them online and all available with us. Just as a teacher, what I do, I have tried to share that. So it's very, very important that when you go with your teaching as an outcome based system, it's important that we also have the internal evaluation. And the internal evaluation, when you are talking, because since this is for the Master of Law students, so some of these thoughts we don't apply for the bachelor students, but the principle remaining the same, because your first requirement is at the very first stage, maybe after 5-10 sessions, maybe 5 to 7 sessions. That means you must know who are your slow learner and fast learner. Once you know that part, that means you need to know that these students you need to apply, you need to take. For slow learner, you need to take the remedial classes. For fast learner, it's very clearly said in the online learning techniques, fast learner should be encouraged even if they are not attending your regular classes. You can give them facilitation either for the internship or for the development of their other capabilities and calibers. Like we have one of the student from Haryana. She is a very good shooter, and in my class, hardly she came only for few sessions, but she is a national champion. So we need to make sure if those of them have got certain capabilities, we must encourage them. After this, when you are taking your assignments and your evaluation, unfortunately, as a teacher, my own experience has been when we ask students to ask for writing a seminar paper or a research project. Sorry to say so, we as a teacher don't read much, nor as a student, they also write something. So I prefer to avoid those things, and I prefer whatever we do has to be meaningful. As a teacher on the outcome based system, feedback is very, very important. And I say also two things more. It is not only feedback which is important given to the student, kindly take feedback from the students also, because normally it's a one-way journey. And uh, that means even if your pace is okay or pace is not good, or even if your pronunciation was not correct, even if your case studies were not done properly, so be ready as a teacher to be at spokes, so that we develop ourselves as well as we develop our students as well. Then you have uh, because nothing is to be waited till end of the journey. And make sure that whatever the learnings which we have taken into consideration, it's also important when we try to grade the students, that what are the criterias which we follow. We can have that also separately, which I do make and which I do perform, that what are the groups in which to whom you can give them the O grade or A grade or B grade. That means whether they, because I set out the criterias or the benchmark, and based on this benchmark, that helps us easy. And once we are used to uh, I'm not getting the word which I have developed, so that you can use it straight away. And online evaluation, once you set you know uh, the benchmarks, straight away the grading can be there. But the only defect to that methodology is the specific attributes to the individuals are still required, because that will not be able to cover on this. Can we have the next slide?
So it is the last slide.
Okay, I think uh, apart from this, you can close this, man. What is important is in the outcome-based learning, we are questioning as a teacher to ourselves that what is that which is required to be done, what is how well we are able to complete it, and what are the areas in which it requires the modifications. And when we are working on this and developing our COs and POs, our examination system, whether it's internal evaluation, our midterm, our end term, has to be also based on the same. That will help us that in which areas how the students have performed, and what are the best methods or methodologies which are required to be followed or done. And I remember we do have a complete setup or a system which has been established here in the UPS. There is a one sheet which we call it as attainment sheet. What is that? Attainment sheet means, say for example, we have done our internal assessment, we have done our midterm marks, we have done our final assessment. Each assessment has to be mapped based. Which CO is being mapped? That means what are the learning, uh, what are the learnings which are required to be carried out. Now, based on this, we do the performance of individual even in the midterm, each CO wise, each questions, and similarly end terms, each questions. And then on the attainment sheet, what we do, say for example, a particular question an individual has done for 5 COs. That means how many COs an individual has done for a in a one paper, how he has done for the CO2, CO3, CO4, that will tell about the overall attainment of the course. That means starting from the journey, and then we also, like, we have made the course plan and we have made the initial setup in which how we are going to work on based on our lectures, either a broad plan or a specific plan. Once we complete that, we need to make sure it looks a bit tidy, but once we are used to, we definitely do better. Where you see, where we can make sure what is that which you have done, what were the reflections of the students. That's very, very important. It's not important to award or reward the teacher or the student. That's a separate part based on the institutional requirement. But these are the few pointers which I just thought could be, in a way, how as a teacher I do or I expect is to be done. Uh, Over to you, Ramani Madam, for any questions or any queries by any of the participants.
Thank you so much, sir, for a very, very comprehensive presentation on this very important and contemporary topic on outcome based education. I now request if any of the participant is interested in asking a question, they can write down in the chat box or they can unmute themselves and ask them personally.
Not only this, if ma'am, anyone has got any questions, even if they want to have on mail or any topic they want to have, most welcome, any one of them.
Thank you so much, sir. You've always been very kind. Sir, with your permission, I would like to ask a question based on your presentation.
Sure, sure. As many as you can also.
So, there was this one slide number 29. Ma'am, Aditi ma'am, if we can open it again.
Yeah,
It spoke
sure,
about
ma'am.
You
Just
it's
you can
so
just
okay.
speak the
So
question.
it spoke about POs. And
Hmm.
there were certain program objectives wherein, so generally they mention acquiring specific skills or clarity of concepts after the student has studied the course. So one question which comes to my mind is that these POs, they always, they do tend to mention the immediate outcomes, that the student should be able to analyze the case law, know specific provisions, know the concept, know the theoretical background. So when I used to study in college, our VC used to tell us that I will measure your success after the completion of your LLB. You come to me after 10 years. And we will get you placements immediately. We'll get you placements, and good students, we know they've learned a lot. But I will measure your success once you come to me after 10 years, and I will analyze which law firm you're working in, or which government sector, or wherever you're placed in life, and then I will measure your success accordingly. So, sir, do these program outcomes, they evaluate on specifically on metrics of any immediate outcome, or say you can say 2 or 3 years, or there are any long term, or we may call them deferred outcomes as well?
Very valid questions, and thank you very much. At least in your times, your professors used to say so, and in our times, it was very difficult uh, to even seek, to meet the professors. And once a professor goes, our heads were always down, uh, and they never say that what you are going to become. They
We were
only
quite
say,
lucky, I must say, then.
no, no, they only say what you sow, you will get the fruit. But rightly said, but taking a good clue from what you said and what is expected now is, to be honest with you, from the country perspective, from your university perspective, from we as a teacher perspective, as well as from the student perspective, I'll say one, two, or three, four lines on this. The Gone are the days when, we send our students, our child to an institution, you go and do this course. Everyone expects, even during pandemic, why to pay, what for, and what is that which you have done for. So we are all being questioned, number one. Number two, the demands in the society make sure that if we are not like a machine, but at least whatever work we do, it should have some meaningfulness. And therefore, whatever, that's why I have not much emphasized on those topics which are available. I'll mention whether our CO language should be this or that. The purpose is, when your program, because you see, you are running a program of BLLB. It's a generic program, so you will have the program objective. When you have PSOs, program specific objectives, yes, Atur sir, I will come to that. When we have these specific objectives, in such cases, what is important is to what extent we are able to align ourselves with the core areas of energy law. I'm sorry to say, many of the institutions teaching the energy law areas, but the question is, apart from the policy guidelines, what are the other specific objectives which are being achieved has to be seen. There are two things, Priti ma'am. One is that we try and make फॉर्म भर लेते हैं हम सारे, वही करते हैं एज ए टीचर. लेट अस बी ऑनेस्ट आल्सो. फॉर्म भरना एक पार्ट है, लेकिन फॉर्म भरने के साथ साथ अगर हमारे से कुछ परसेंटेज भी बच्चे उस चीज को सीख के आगे इम्प्लीमेंट करके उसका फायदा उठाते हैं, तो यू फील गुड. Our teachers used to say only one thing in the class, like Upendra Bakshi and others. If 5% of you have understood our lecture, my job is done. So similarly, when we are at a stage, if some of our students says that I've been selected to London School of Economics as doing my Master of Law, or I've been selected in such and such judiciary, or I have been selected in, say, Amarchand Mangaldas, you feel good. And that is what, because purpose is you are trying to work out, one, on the theoretical basis. Second, we are also trying to transplant a system from where we had no system. We had the National Education Policy of 1986, a great achievement. 2020 is a furthermore opening up. And nowadays, what the emphasis has been, because I'm waiting for a day in which Justice Frankfurter of United States, who was a professor of law, also became the Supreme Court judge. That means education and industry, once these outcome based are meaningful, whether I'm an academician or from the industry, I must gel so well so that it gives a meaningful result. I hope I tried to answer to the
Thank you
extent
so much,
whatever I
sir.
could.
Thank you so
Uh,
much, sir. Truly.
I come to another question which uh, Dr. Atur has mentioned, that what are the challenges in implementing in Indian context. To be honest with you, challenges are mainly in our mindset. We as a teacher, we as a faculty, and we as a student, because the purpose is, problem is with all of us, because we are all late in the functioning. When we start with the session, already things are late. We start with the session, in the meanwhile we'll prepare our course plan and other things, and we are always in a hurry. That means if we spend some time, and again the students are also mainly in the online, how the mindset will change if we know that we are all to study only in online and there are no offline. Perhaps there will be different mindset, good or bad, that only time can tell. But when we have a pre-sessions and sessions, which I like in the United States, because here uh, Muhammad Atur, what he has mentioned looks very logical, is in foreign universities, students register themselves for a particular session and come and join. I know one of my friend who is a professor from IIM Bangalore. Presently, he is the chairman of Punjab and Sindh Bank. He used to go for delivering a talk in various universities in the United States. If you want to have the education, one is a general registration that you are admitted to such and such course. Like for FDP, same is, once we are able to create a feeling with the students that, they need to have this program, important for it, have it registered, work it out, make it meaningful. Perhaps these are the few challenges which we do have to take into consideration. Over to you, Priti ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, there's one more question. It's from Ashu Gautam. Please advise us on understanding the evaluation of lifelong learning PO.
Very
So
good
I'm
question.
from, yes, sir. So I'm from engineering background. So in context to engineering background, would like to understand this. Thank you so much.
Okay, should I answer in the language of engineering? Because unfortunately, I happen to be a software
It's up,
engineer only.
sir. Thank you, sir. I'm looking forward to hear from you. Thank you.
See, but unfortunately, my experience, Ashu, have not been really great as a lifelong learning. And I remember this saying of Humayun, who said, I tumbled and tumbled and tumbled again. Uh, but when you come to this, is just jokes apart, but it was a fact of the life, because started my career as a software engineer, then turning to the field of law, and I still feel I'm a student of all these subjects, starting from electronics, oil and gas, mining, and then the core areas of law. But law always have been a part of in the heart of my studies. When you talk about the lifelong learning in any subject, Ashu, what is important is what is that which has impacted you in making a change. Like I said, I studied in ninth standard. You people must have studied earlier. What is a science? And I remember till date, it was in ninth class that first question which came to me. Science is a systematized knowledge of body and mankind through observations, experience, and experiments. And the lifelong learning for any program, forget about the field of law or any field, is something. Say, for example, you are in which area of engineering, Ashu? So
So
I'll
I'm in
talk on that.
electronics communication. Yeah.
Good. So we are on the same page.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
remember, I remember when I started doing designing of, say, using the 8085 or 8086 microprocessors. Uh, you see, we were just thinking, our boss, he is just asking us to do, making this checksum and deriving certain results. It has got no meaning as such. But while we were doing so, we developed our own computers when I was working in the telecom engineering center. The purpose is, I was thinking at that time, ये कुछ नहीं कर रहे, सिर्फ खाली just we are adding two summations and that we are doing. But while doing so, we are able to generate first like the telephone bills, then the other digital activities in which the digitization of the communication system uh, in the telecom network started. That means the lifelong learning are some those experiences which we get only by doing through and going, yes, with a purpose, that what is that which is my final goal and destination. And this was the time when CIT Alcatel came here in India to start the uh, digitization of Indian telecom network way back in 1984. I don't know, Ashu, whether I could give my thought to you or
Thank you
still.
so much, sir. Thank you so much. While we file for accreditation, many times one of the program outcome is, talking about this concept, lifelong learning, and it's sometimes difficult for us as a faculty, what are the subjects which we should look for to put it in this category, just to satisfy that the points which we are going to get from this particular program outcome. Thank you so much, sir.
I
We'll
can
work.
help you in that. Don't worry.
Right, right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, Dr. Priti, this is Prabjot Bhulai here. I have some
Please go ahead.
more of some experience. Thank you so much, Dr. Chopra, for the insightful session. I also happen to be from the same faculty as you. I did my law from campus way back in 1992. And one second, sir. I think it's an issue with the video. Can you see my video, sir?
No, no.
No, I am not that fortunate, sir.
There's some, I think, one second, sir. I think now you can
Yes.
see my video, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
you're
yes.
So
visible now.
what I wanted to kind of share, sir, I'm unlike most of the people who are participating in the conference and, the faculty members, who spend many years in teaching. My experiences with teaching were more related to, because I got into active practice in 92, and infrastructure laws and, energy laws you mentioned, telecom laws you mentioned in your presentations. Infrastructure has been my core area of practice since 95. So I've worked across sectors with diverse stakeholders, whether it is investors, developers, regulators. And when I moved up as partners in law firms, I realized, a lot of the younger students which were coming out of law schools, just like me when I got out of law school in 92, we really didn't understand how to kind of approach the subject of infrastructure laws, read and assimilate, understand them. So I've had the occasion of conducting training programs within the law firms, whereas to kind of educate people as to how they read and understand the sector, understand the context in which the sectoral laws have evolved, what has driven lawmaking, what kind of tools have been adopted. So I think my reasons of coming back, at the later part of my career, back to studying and understanding teaching methodologies was to kind of understand where are these gaps which are coming in, because you have law students coming out of law school, getting into practice, and they are suddenly, taken aback because they feel that there is a huge gap between what they read in theory and what is happening in practice, especially when you come to sectoral laws. So what I want to kind of, sir, understand from you and also share is I think there is a need for a shift to contextual education. So, while where there are generic laws we study, but when we get on to teaching sectoral laws at law schools and training institutions, it is very important to expose the students who are on the verge of finishing the law to the practical sides of the practice, which is not just moot courts. It is not just about speaking at a forum or making a presentation. It is more about understanding dynamics. So, say for example, what goes into pricing, what goes into tariff making, what are the kind of procedures which are adopted there, which are more dominated by financial consultants. But as lawyers, because the judicial forums, because, I have been a counsel, I've argued matters before regulatory commissions, before the tribunals. I have as a lawyer, when the sectoral regime changed way back 20 years back, I went and participated in financial programs be conducted for utilities, for them to understand how would tariffs be made, how would cost of service be arrived at, how would an annual revenue requirement be worked out. So I think lawyers have to kind of be,
Can I share, Prabhjot sir, can I
Sure,
share
sir.
something?
Sir. Sir.
I think, as you rightly said, and fortunately or unfortunately, I am a student of Delhi University for 22 years.
Right,
And
sir.
I have a 39 years of experience of my overall work. And what you have said is absolutely correct. Normally, I don't share since you asked, so I just mentioned, sir. What is important is, and I always say with a saying, lawyers know nothing about technology, and technologies know nothing about law. What I was just talking before you to Ashu. I have also seen. I am the one who was critic of the FIDIC documents and its applications here in India with regard to the fairness of contract, particularly when you talk about the NHI contracts and all those. What is important, Prabhuji, you have raised a point which is a much more higher order point compared to this outcome based learning, because you have emphasized on another arena what an outcome should be, because you have said on the Kelsenian norm of what exactly an outcome should look into. Unfortunately, what is happening is, when I ask my legal scholars, not from the person like you who knows practically what type of contracts they are, they say we have only this Indian contract. I said there are many types of contract. It could be a production sharing contract, it could be revenue sharing contract, it would be cost plus fee contract, so many. So, and then they say there the definitions are different. But to be honest with you, Prabhuji, when you look closely to what is happening in the industry.
Mr. Ajay Tiwari, please mute yourself.
What is happening in the industry and the academics? Thanks to this new education policy, provided this policy is given more teeth and also it's important that both the academicians as well as the you know people from the industry work in this direction so that
Break.
I think there's some connectivity issue with sir.
Yeah, whether others are able to hear?
No, sir.
hello,
No, sir.
am I there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I think we lost you for some time. If you could just repeat what you were saying, sir. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I think your connection is restored, Rakesh, sir. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes, sir. You're audible now.
No, yes,
So please speak.
I can hear. So, no, actually, I think it was a good saying what I was starting to make, because once the time is over, even the network also get lost.
So true.
So, I think just to close from my end, what you said, and I request, Dr. Tariq, Dr. Ajim, and Priti, and all of you, Dr. Kaushal, that something, the experience from the academics and the industry, if something on these topics, whether it's of engineering or of law, I think some sort of this type of workshop will definitely help every one of us, and making sure that the objectives of these new education policies are fully met. Over to you, Priti ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you,
Sir,
sir.
that was
Thank you,
an
sir.
excellent suggestion made by you, and we'll definitely work upon it in the days to come. So, thank you so much for such a comprehensive and a truly enjoyable session. And you explained all these technical concepts of COs and POs in a very lucid manner. I must say, sir, one observation from my side, that I believe some of our teachers, when we used to be in school, used to say that, learn for the joy of learning and don't learn for outcomes and marks. I think those days are long gone, just as you said, that everything, is measured by outcome now. So thank you so much, sir, for a very, very informative and insightful session. And I hope that, you can grace all our programs in the future also. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Rakesh, sir. Thank you for
Thank you so much, Professor Chopra, sir, for giving your time, valuable time here for this session, and helping these all participants, to go ahead in understanding this outcome-based education. Thank you so much on behalf of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, convener, and all management, and for your presence here today for this FDP. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rakesh, sir.
Thank you, Rakesh, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all, and Dr. Ajim, kindly convey my thanks to Tabriz sir also, and all of us present here. It was really wonderful session organized by you all. I'm always available to you all whenever I think it's called for. Thank you all, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Participants, please fill the feedback form, which has been given by the FTP team in the chat box, and it's open only for 15 minutes. So please make sure you're filling this form within this time frame.
Thank you, Preeti ma'am. Thank you all. And dear participants, the schedule for tomorrow's session has been given in the chat box. Tomorrow we are having 3 sessions. First session is on changing research scenario and opportunity of funding. And the second session is on how to write a successful research proposal. The resource person for both these sessions are Professor Upendra Chaudhary, Professor of Aligarh Muslim University. And the third session is at 2 p.m., which is on effective case teaching and learning. The session is going to be taken up by Professor Alok Pandey, Dean School of Management of GDGU University. Thank you. In the meantime, kindly fill the feedback form.
Thank you, Dr. Aditi.
Excuse me,
Ma'am?
do we have another session at 2 o'clock?
No, for today, this is the last session.
Okay, thank you.
Going to home or mess?
Yeah, Dr. Rambir Singh, you have a
Yes,
query?
raise the hands. Dr. Rambir.
ये क्या है?
I think it's by mistake.
Something. He is empty.
हाँ, कोई हाथ उठा रहा है.
मैम फीडबैक फॉर्म नहीं मिल रहा है, दोबारा डालेंगे जरा
Yeah, sure.
प्लीज. डाल दीजिए.
For today, there is no more session. Tomorrow, we are having 3 sessions. The details are already there in the chat box.